Hello, everyone. Good night. For your hope in me and to help me create better stories, tell me in the comments where and when you listen to my stories, and get ready to start the story by liking and subscribing. Chapter 1: The Gentle Weave of Betrothal. In the soft hush of a Nordic autumn, where the fjords of Norway cradled the land like a mother's arms, and the sun dipped low to paint the sky in strokes of amber and rose, the year 950 AD unfolded its quiet tapestry in the village of Hrafnstad. The air was crisp with the scent of salted cod drying on wooden racks by the shore, mingled with the earthy whisper of pine needles carpeting the forest paths, and the distant, rhythmic lap of waves against pebble beaches that had witnessed the sagas of gods and men since the time of Odin's wanderings. Here, amid longhouses of turf-roofed oak and birch, where smoke curled lazily from central hearths like prayers ascending to Asgard, lived Ira, a daughter of the fjord, her days woven from the threads of wool spun on a drop spindle carved from reindeer antler. At 19 winters, Ira moved with the unhurried grace of one attuned to the land's subtle rhythms. Her hands, calloused yet gentle from carding fleeces gathered from the summer grazings, knew the loom's patient song, crafting cloaks dyed in the muted blues of woad from the meadows and the fiery reds of madder root foraged from the hillsides. Her hair, the color of ripened barley, was braided with ribbons of undyed linen, a simple adornment that echoed the Valkyrie's whispers in the Eddas. Those poetic verses, committed to memory around winter fires since the skalds of the 9th century first sang them. The village stirred gently that morn, as it had for generations. The longhouse heavy door, framed in iron hinges, forged in the blooneries of the Trondheim fjords, where bog iron was smelted with charcoal from birch woods, creaking open to admit the first light. Eira's father, Harald, a man of 40 summers with a beard braided in the style of Thor's own, and eyes like the slate-gray waves that crashed upon the skerries, sat by the raised platform bed. Its frame draped in furs from the winter hunts, gray wolf for warmth, red fox for the hearth's glow. Harald was a Godi, a chieftain priest of the old ways, tasked with reciting the blessings at blots and overseeing the thing assemblies where disputes were settled under Yggdrasil's imagined branches, as per the laws laid down in the Gulathing Code of the 930s, that ancient scroll of birch bark, etched with runes guiding kin and kith in matters of honor and hearth. Beside him, Eira's mother, Sigrid, stirred the pottage in a soapstone cauldron suspended over the embers. "Barley, breathe with the morning's gift, my dove," Sigrid murmured to Eira as she rose from her alcove, the woolen blanket embroidered with the helm of awe, a protective sigil of interlaced raven's wings, inked with charcoal from oak galls, slipping from her shoulders like a shed skin. In, drawing the fjord's cool breath deep into your lungs, tasting the salt of the sea that birthed us all, filling your chest with the steady strength of waves that carve mountains over ages. Out, pottage's savory warmth and the faint, resinous tang of the hearth's birch logs felled in the midsummer clearings and dried under turf stacks to burn long and even. With each exhalation, the subtle knot of uncertainty in her belly unraveled, her pulse sinking with the distant call of a loon from the water's edge, that haunting cry, a reminder of the soul's quiet voyage through the vales of Valhalla. Breakfast unfolded on the trestle table of planed pine. Scarred from years of communal feasts, the family breaking their fast with chunks of rye bread baked in the clay oven outside, its crust dark and nutty, interior soft as a cloud, slathered with butter churned from the goat's summer milk, and spoons dipping into the pottage, each bite a meditation on the earth's bounty. Harold spoke then of the morrow's gathering, his voice low and resonant as the saga tellers at the Yule blots. The suitors come with the tide, Era, Bjorn of the eastern steading, son of the shipwright, who felled the oak for Olaf Tryggvason's longships in 995, brings his father's proposal. And young Leif, with hair like storm clouds and hands skilled in the rune carving that marks our kinstones since the gelling stones of Gorm the Old in 935. Marriages in the Norse world were no whirlwind of passion alone, but a sacred contract woven between families, as outlined in the Icelandic Gragos laws of the 12th century. Codifying the sponsum, Eira nodded, her fingers tracing the wooden bowl's rim, carved with interlocking knotwork that symbolized the endless cycle of the world tree. Its roots drinking from the well of Erd, where the Norns spun fates from clouds and dew. She had glimpsed Bjorn at the midsummer Althing, his laugh booming like thunder over the assembly fields, where freemen gathered under white tents to debate the Law Rock's edicts, their voices rising in the alliterative verse of the Havamal. Odin's hoary wisdom, better a man by kin and Godi, with the bride's father holding the scales of silver arm rings, each ounce equivalent to a cow's worth in the Danelaw's monetary codes, traded from the mints of York since the 9th century. As the sun arced toward noon, painting the fjord's waters in molten gold and the birch leaves in flickering emerald, the village prepared with unhurried grace. Women gathered in the weaving shed, a low turf hut with walls of wattle daubed in clay from the riverbanks, clay mixed with horsehair for strength, as in the Viking hall's enduring builds, threading looms with the year's wool, dyed in vats of urine-fermented woad for the bride's future cloak, a garment symbolizing the hearth's warmth she would bring to her new home. Era joined them, her distaff twirling like a spindle of fate, the wool's soft pull a rhythm that lulled the mind. Spin, draw, twist, release. Feel the thread's quiet song, her aunt murmured, a widow of 3 winters with silver in her braids like Freya's own. In the fiber's gentle yield, drawing patience from fleece to finger, steady as the Norn's shuttle. Out, the day's loose ends, unraveling like fog at the fjord's mouth. Laughter rippled softly as tales unfolded of Sigrid's own betrothal, where Harold had gifted a necklace of amber beads from the Baltic's sunstone shores. Washed up by Baltic currents since the amber routes of the Bronze Age, each bead a sun trap invoking Baldur's light. Afternoon brought the suitors by longboat, their hulls clinker-built of overlapping oak planks caulked with animal tallow and tar from the pine pitches of the inland forests, prows carved with snarling serpent heads to ward sea trolls, though muffled for the peaceful fjord. Bjorn's vessel, broad-beamed for cargo from the Baltic trades, docked first, its sail furled in serpentine coils, dyed with the blood of mackerel for red sail's luck. He stepped ashore with a chest of silver hacksilver, chipped rings and ingots from the Quairdale hoard style, buried in 905 and unearthed in Saga's echoes, offering the Munder to Harold under the Thing Tree, a gnarled ash with runes carved in Elder Futhark, Ansus for the god's breath, Fehu for wealth's flow. Leif followed his narrower Canor, swift as a heron, bearing a dowry promise of iron tools from Nidaros forges, axes with hafts of ashwood. Tempered in the betrothal rite commenced in the longhouse, kin assembled on benches cushioned with sheepskins sheared in spring. The air thick with the scent of mead brewing in oak vats, honey from the cliffside skeps, fermented with wild yeast from the heather moors, as in the recipe of the 10th century Oseberg ship's provisions. Harold, as Godi, invoked the All-Father with a horn of ale poured libation to the floor. By Odin's eye and Thor's hammer, may this bond hold as firm as Mjolnir's strike. Words were exchanged, Bjorn pledging alliance against the Orkney Jarl's raids, Leif vowing shared hunts in the Elkwoods, sealed with handclasps over the ancestral sword, its hilt wrapped in silver wire from Frankish trades since Charlemagne's 800 coronation. Era's consent came soft, her nod to Leif a bloom in the hearth's glow. For though contracts bound the kin, the heart's whisper was Freya's domain. As the Voluspa prophesied in Snorri's Edda of 1220, the Volva's vision of love's enduring flame. Evening fell like a velvet cloak, the sun's last rays gilding the fjord in crimson. Ravens calling from the crags like messengers of Hugin and Munin. The betrothed shared a trencher of smoked salmon and barley flatbread. Rings exchanged, not golden bands of later Christian rites, but iron oath rings twisted in the smithy, engraved with bind runes for fidelity, worn on the arm as the Havamal advised. A ring given in pledge is a chain of trust. Leif's gift to Era was a cransen, a crown of myrtle leaves and silver coins from the Gotland hoards, worn until the wedding eve, symbolizing her maiden bloom, to be melted into the couple's first hearth cauldron. As the hearth embers banked low, casting dancing shadows on the runic tapestries, scenes of Freya's falcon cloak from the Sigdrivamal, where the goddess teaches runes of love. The village settled into repose. Era lay in her alcove, the wool blanket's weight a comforting anchor, Leif's ring cool against her skin. Rest now, beneath Frigga's watchful stars, Sigrid whispered, tucking the edge. In their betrothal's warm weave, filling dreams with threads of tomorrow. Out, into the night's gentle fjord, where waves rock the soul to sleep's deep harbor. Dreams came soft, longhouses aglow with mead horns, swords gleaming in marrow light, the Norns nodding approval in Hrafstad's hush, where rituals bound not with force but fate's kind hand. Era drifted into slumber's embrace, the world's worries dissolving like dew on dawn-lit heather. Chapter 2. The Sacred Knot of Union. Dawn broke over Hrafstad like a lover's tentative touch. The winter solstice of 951 AD, veiling the fjord in a mist of pearl and silver, the year turning under the watchful eye of the sunwheel. That bronze amulet from the Trundholm chariot finds of the Bronze Age, symbol of soul's eternal return. The air was sharp with the tang of hoarfrost on the thatched roofs, turf layered thick with wild thyme and ling heather for insulation, as in the Viking halls of Oseberg, unearthed with its 834 ship's grave goods, and the faint, smoky perfume of the first fires kindled in longhouse hearths, using flint struck from the riverbed nodules, sparks caught on tinder of birch fungus dried since summer's harvest. Era awoke to the soft stirrings of the steading. Her cranston crown resting on the coffer of carved oak, its myrtle leaves wilted but fragrant, the silver coins glinting like captured moonlight, ready to be reforged into the couple's shared future. Today was the wedding day, Frigga's Holy Friday, named for the goddess of marriage in the Germanic tongues since the 9th century, a day when the Norns favored unions, as the Rigsdula sang of Heimdall's kin-binding rites. The Wing gathered Eira for the pre-wedding cleanse. A rite of purification in the Steenbath hut by the hot spring, a low dome of sod and stone, its interior lined with birch benches smoothed by generations' sweat, heated by stones from the volcano's breath, dropped into water basins with tongs of antler to release vapors scented with juniper branches gathered at Yule. Breathe with the steam's embrace, Sigrid guided as attendants poured warmed birch water over Era's shoulders, the liquid tracing rivulets like Freya's tears of gold from the poetic Edda. In the cleansing mist, drawing renewal deep into your pores, filling you with the purity of new beginnings, steady as the spring's eternal flow. Out, releasing the old self's shadows, letting them evaporate like frost under soul's kind gaze. The bath was no mere washing, but a rebirth, echoing the Vanir rituals where Brisingamen's amber, Freya's necklace forged by dwarves in Svartalfheim, shone with the light of cleansed souls, a custom whispered in the 10th century Landnámabók, the Icelandic Book of Settlements, where brides bathed to honor the goddess's fertility. Dressed then in the husfreyja's gown, a full-length kirtle of fine linen from the flax fields of the Danish Isles, over which draped a overdress of wadmal wool embroidered with the Filia sigil, a personal guardian spirit depicted as a wolf or swan, inked with gallnut dye. Era's hair was unbound for the last time, then braided with fresh ribbons of crimson wool, symbolizing the blood oath of union, as in the saga of Gunnlaug Serpent-Tongue, where brides' locks were woven with the betrothed's fate threads, a brooch of silver gilt, the turtle or oval type from Birka's graves of the 9th century, pinned the apron dress, its chains dangling keys to the hearth and steading, emblems of the woman's domain since the matrilineal echoes of the Vanir gods. Leif, meanwhile, fulfilled the groom's ancient duty under the pale sun's arc, venturing to the family barrow, a mound of earth and stone on the headland, raised in his grandfather's honor with a runestone at its crown. Leif hing Gamli in Younger Futhark, erected like the 11th century stones of Uppland, commemorating the dead's watch over the living. with torch of pine resin dipped in tallow, Leif entered the tomb's low passage. The air cool and musty, with the scent of earth and faded offerings, ale horns and breadcrumbs from past blots. There, from the stone bier wrapped in decayed linens, he retrieved the ancestral sword, its blade nicked from battles against the Frankish counts in 845's Seine raids, hilt bound with silver wire from Dorestad's mints. The act was sacred, invoking Tyr's hand in the oath, for as the Havamal warned, a weapon from the barrow carried the forebear's strength, binding the marriage in blood and dash. Bone. Emerging, Leif cleansed the blade in the fjord's waters, the ripples carrying prayers to Njord, god of the seas and wealth, his hammer Mjolnir pendant, replica of the 10th century finds from Fjalki, swaying against his chest. The procession formed at midday, the village kin assembling under the thing tree's branches, now bare but for raven perches, the Godi's staff of carved yew, topped with the Valkna. Odin's knot of intertwined triangles, symbolizing the slain's fate since the migration period's Bracteates. Era was born in a wagon drawn by 2 white oxen, sacrificial beasts from the Althing herds, their horns gilded with leaf gold from Byzantine trades, draped in furs and embroidered hangings depicting the Brisingamen's forging, the wheels creaking softly over the path of crushed oyster shells for luck, as per the custom in the Eyrbyggja saga, where brides' arrivals honored Frigga's chariot, attendants scattered barley from the midsummer stores, grains threshed with flails of hazel wood, invoking a bountiful hearth. At the longhouse threshold, Leif awaited, sword girded at his side, tunic of blue-dyed wool clasped with a penannular brooch of bronze, its pin etched with runes for Ansuz and Gebo, mouth and gift. The Godi, herald in robe of bearskin from the Sami trades, raised his staff. By the powers of Asgard and the roots of Yggdrasil, we bind these two in the sacred knot. The hand-fasting followed. No Christian priest but the kin's circle. Leif and Ira's right hands joined, wrists bound with a ribbon of crimson-dyed linen from the bride's loom, knotted thrice for past, present, future, echoing the Celtic influences traded via the Irish Sea since the 8th century, though Norse in essence as the Volsunga saga's blood oaths. Rings were exchanged over the sword's flat, Leif's a plain band of hacked silver, Ira's a point. Spiral of gold wire from the Vindalev hoard of the 6th century, vows spoken in alliterative verse. With this blade I pledge my arm, with this ring my heart's hearth, in Freya's name and Frigga's grace. The company entered the hall. Ira carried over the threshold by Leif to ward evil spirits. Her laughter light as the mead horns clinked in toast. The feast unfolded, tables groaning under roasted boar glazed with honey from the cliff hives. Its crackling fat scenting the air like sacrifice. Wheels of goat cheese from the summer pastures, rhyme stamped with the Stedding's rune, and ale from the brewhouse vats, fermented with juniper berries for clarity, as in the 10th century recipes of the Stockholm Codex. Skalds recited, "May your union be as the oak to the vine, strong and entwining, bearing fruit." In fields of fate, toasts rose in braggerful, oaths over the horn, sworn to Thor for strength, Odin for wisdom. the hall alive with harp strings plucked from gut of the red deer, melodies from the poetic Edda's lays. As twilight deepened, painting the fjord in indigo and the first stars pricking like Freya's tears, the couple retired to the high seat, carved with dragon heads from the prow of Harold's Nor. The morning gift awaited. Leif presented a hymenfia, a coffer of linen and silver spoons from the dowry share, ensuring Eira's independence as the law demanded in the Frostathing Code of the 11th century. Rest now in the knot's warm hold, Harold blessed, ale sprinkled to the floor. Eira slicked beneath the bridal bed's furs, bear and marten tanned with oak bark for softness, Leif beside her, the sword between as guardian. In the union's steady pulse, filling the night with shared breath. Out. Into sleep's fjord deep calm. Where dreams sail under Frigga's stars. The village hushed, fires banked, waves lulling. In that sacred weave, where rituals honored heart and hearth, slumber claimed them, gentle as the northern lights veil. The end.